perhaps you were born for such a time as this. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Faith and Freedom. I'm Shemane Nugent. What if everything we've been told about health is actually backward? I was once named Detroit's most physical female, teaching a dozen fitness classes every week, eating kale a decade before it was cool. And yet I was plagued with debilitating migraines and even rushed to the ER with heart attack symptoms. One doctor, you're going to love this. One doctor actually told me, I don't know, maybe you're too healthy. That's when I realized no one's coming to save me. I had to become my own advocate, to dig into how the body truly heals. And that's why I'm fired up about this conversation. My guest today is a guy who's shaking up the entire health industry. Gary Brecka is a human biologist and founder of The Ultimate Human. He's worked with elite performers, world leaders, and everyday people, showing that most disease isn't random, it's preventable. Welcome, Gary. How are you?
Hey, oh my gosh, it's so good to be on Faith and Freedom. We were just laughing about the last time I spoke with your husband, and it was at Mar-a-Lago, at one of the president's events. He was sitting next to General Flynn and Mike Tyson, and he was pounding on the table with a baseball bat. I was like, how did you get past Secret Service with a baseball bat? Of course, only Ted Nugent could do that. So yeah, there it is. See, I'm telling you.
That was an
He was
interesting.
pounding on the table with it. Yeah.
That was an interesting, because they gave everybody, not everybody, but they gave the recipients of this the Defender of Freedom Award, and they gave them all, the baseball bats. You got one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an interesting choice to give away when the president ended up showing up and at Mar-a-Lago. But I got to tell you, Ted's going to be coming in just a minute. So everybody who's watching, stay tuned, because you're going to love this conversation. It's going to be high intensity. But I wanted to get a chance to talk to Gary first, because things might shift a little bit when Ted comes in. But I just wanted to say, I ended up sitting right next to you, in between you and Janice Trey from Epic Times. And man, I thought I hit the lottery. That was spectacular. And congratulations on your award, by the way.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
So people keep hearing about this term biohacking. It sounds high tech and complicated, but what is it really? And what does it mean to biohack your body, become the ultimate human?
Well, basically what it means is, we're really fascinatingly getting back to the basics, right? I mean, it's funny how the science of anti-aging and longevity has come full circle. We're realizing, for example, that you can't diet your way around poor sleep. You can't sleep your way around a bad diet, and you can't exercise your way around either. And when we actually look at the big data, let's say blue zones, for example, there was no continuity between diets in the blue zones. So it wasn't keto, paleo, pescatarian, vegan, vegetarian, raw food that extended life. What extended life was the absence of processed foods. What extended life was mobility into later in life. What extended life was a sense of community, a sense of purpose. Very often people's religious orientation, because it gave them a sense of community, gave them a sense of purpose. And so biohacking is the best biohacks are about getting back to the basics. So when we talk about biohacks like sauna, breathwork, grounding, sunlight, red light therapy, all of these things are taking the best of what Mother Nature gave us and bringing them into the home. So for example, earthing and grounding is a very real thing. The earth has a low Gauss current. We discharge into the earth. And when you discharge into the earth, you repolarize the surface of your cells. And when that happens, your cell can now exchange with its outside environment. It can eliminate waste, it can repair, it can detoxify, it can regenerate. When you do things like expose your skin to sunlight, we've been taught to fear the sun, but when we expose our skin to sunlight for not prolonged periods of time, we produce vitamin D3. We produce all kinds of compounds that are very beneficial for improving our circulation, for reducing inflammation, and for giving us the necessary hormones and vitamins that we need for core function. Vitamin D3, a deficiency in vitamin D3 was the second leading cause of morbidity in COVID. And yet we don't even need to eat or drink or take a supplement. All we need to do is expose our skin to the sun. And so very often these biohacks, things like sauna, red light, cold plunge. These are not new things. They're things we're actually bringing back from our ancestry and incorporating them into our lives because we realize they have real physiologic benefits. So, for example, a biohacking tool is usually a tool that creates what we call a hormetic stress. Hormesis is the process in the human body where you apply a stress and the body strengthens in response. So, in other words, if you don't load your bones, they don't strengthen. If you don't tear your muscles, they don't grow. If you don't challenge your immune system, it weakens. So, what are some ways that we can take uh, different supplements or equipment or different activities and put these minor stresses on the body so that we strengthen in response? Cold water is a perfect mechanism of that. We uh, get into cold water, 52 down to 48 degrees, 3 minutes minimum, 6 minutes maximum. That rapid loss of heat is a hormetic stress. Well, what does it do? It skyrockets our dopamine, our norepinephrine level, makes us focused and concentrated. It turns on a thermostat in our body called brown fat, which exchanges calories for a measure of heat. It causes our liver to release cold shock proteins, which scour the body of inflammation, free radical oxidation. And it even helps with a peripheral vasoconstriction to drive blood into our core. So that would be a biohack, cold water, being used to strengthen the body. Sauna does a very similar thing. You release heat shock proteins, you dilate the vasculature, and you eliminate waste. And by waste, I don't mean stool or urine, I mean cellular waste, mold, mycotoxins, heavy metals, parasites, viruses, these things that are plaguing our immune system. So the whole biohacking world is based on the premise of what can I do or expose my body to that will actually cause it to strengthen in response. I have a saying that aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort, and nothing is more accurate than that statement.
Yeah, I love that. Unfortunately, and I agree with you. What are the telltale signs that someone who's watching now is agreeing with everything that you said, and what are the signs that their body's actually breaking down?
Well, what we would call consequences of aging are generally not consequences of aging at all. They're consequences of missing raw material in the human body. So let me give you an example. If I was to show you a soil lineage study between 1945 and 2022, in other words, what kind of nutrient density did the soil have back then versus what kind of nutrient density does it have now? It would absolutely frighten you, right? We have gleaned the fields, which the Bible tells us not to do, but we have gleaned the fields. We have overfarmed. We have put too many herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, preservatives, all kinds of toxins into our soil. We've disrupted the microbiome of the soil. And now the animals that eat that soil and the plants that grow in that soil are deficient in the raw materials that our body needs to do its job. If I was to actually show you a really complicated chart of your cellular biology, this vast maze of reactions going on 300 billion times a day inside every single cell of your body. What would be fascinating about that chart is that the layperson, if you zoomed in on that chart, would recognize the name of everything on that chart, meaning they would recognize the name of common vitamins, minerals, and amino acids, nutrients that you are used to hearing about. When you deprive the body of certain raw material, you get the expression of disease. Let me give you an example. We live in Florida, right? So if you had a leaf rotting in a palm tree, let's say, and you called a true arborist, a true botanist out to look at that leaf, they wouldn't even touch the leaf. They would core test the soil and they would say, you know what? There is no nitrogen in the soil. And they would add nitrogen to the soil and the leaf would heal. Human beings are no different. So the consequences of aging are things that we have actually learned to assume are normal. We have normalized it in our social circles. Why? Because at a certain age, at 50 years old, everybody's wearing readers. By the way, these are not readers, these are blue light glasses. So I don't wear readers. I'm 55 years old. Everybody's wearing readers. So when you start to wear readers, it's not a big deal. Everybody's low back hurts. Not a big deal. Everybody has some brain fog. They get a great idea in the bedroom, they walk to the kitchen, and they wonder what the heck they're doing in the kitchen. Most people are fatigued when they wake up in the morning. They have bouts of fatigue throughout the day. They have weight gain. They have water retention. They have poor waking energy. And so we've learned to just push through these things because we believe that they're consequences of aging, and they're not. They're consequences of missing raw material. And by missing
Gary,
raw
go ahead. I've only got a few seconds left, and I'm going to bring in
oh,
my special guest. Can you stick
okay.
around a little bit more?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, I'll
we're
stick
gonna
around
we're
for a
gonna
second.
take a quick we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back. But first, you guys don't forget about those people and businesses that support this show and Real America's Voice. My Pillow and Mike Lindell want to pay you back. Go to mypillow.com and use the promo code FAITH, and you'll get a discount. They want to help you out and give you a better night's sleep. We're going to talk about that in a minute with Gary Brecka and Ted Nugent coming up. Don't go away.
Relish the opportunity to be an outsider, because it's the outsiders who change the world.
Perhaps you were born for such a time as this. Welcome back to Faith and Freedom. I got my special guest co-host.
Special.
Welcome back, Gary.
Thank you. Great to be
So,
back.
You were telling us about when we first started about you. Was that the first time you and Ted met at Mar-a-Lago?
I think so.
A great
Yeah.
meeting.
And it was my pleasure, Gary. I got to tell you, I've been screaming, Shemane and I've been screaming, me before her, before she was born, about the hunting natural lifestyle. And it's the healthiest lifestyle in the world. And at 77 years clean and sober, I think I may represent the spirit of the wild and the aboriginal earthly diet and the pursuit thereof. So I thought I'd just put that in before Gary Brecker,
I
that I
agree with
was
that.
already making America as healthy as I could.
I mean, it's so true. We literally started this show, Ted, by talking about getting back to the basics and, sleep, whole food diet, mobility, exercise, sense of community, sense of purpose, which entwines our faith. Just the basics that we all look past, and we're sort of chasing this wild carrot, this rare Amazon root that's the secret to life and the secret to longevity, or this magic molecule that we can put into our bodies to extend life. But the truth is, you're exactly right, man. Are the ancestral tenets of, community, faith, purpose, whole food diet, mobility, and good sleep. That's where
Well,
long
you just
life
described the hunting lifestyle, but isn't it amazing, and not really in the dumbing down of America, that there was such hate for the aboriginal earthly, in touch with God's miracle creation from natural, organic, renewable, natural protein, that there still is an anti-hunting animal rights insanity out there that is against the healthiest and most environmentally beneficial lifestyle: hunting, fishing, trapping, farming, ranching, people who walk the ground, who morally and ethically and spiritually connect with our resource stewardship duties. It's not out of the ordinary that the perfect lifestyle has an enemy, and it started after the hippie generation, where they'd attack me for murdering innocent animals. Meanwhile, I'm eating venison and it's perfect.
I couldn't agree with you more. Half of this country is following the food pyramid that says that Lucky Charms is more nutritious than grass-fed steak. So that's where we're at from the hierarchy looking down. This is what our public policy has led us to believe. 74% of our nutritional research is funded by big food and big pharma. So no wonder they're attacking the farming, hunting lifestyle. No wonder they're attacking these ancestral tenets, because we want Lucky Charms to be more nutritious than grass-fed steak. Now, that's a joke, but it's not a joke that's essentially what our food pyramid says. There's no harm in highly processed foods, meaning ingredients in foods that your body literally does not have an enzyme for, unlike animals and plants. And so the fascinating thing to me is now we're realizing, like it happens in politics and economies and in populations all over the globe, the pendulum swung too far. It's like the same thing happened during the COVID pandemic. The pendulum just swung too far, and people were like, "This is idiocracy," and there was a revolt. And I think now you're seeing the same thing in the Make America Healthy Again movement, which isn't like make America healthy again. It's like get America back to the basics again. So I agree with you, and it's sad that you got attacked for that.
We started out the show by saying what if everything that we were told is actually backward, and you brought up Lucky Charms and the food pyramid. So let's go on that topic. Should we eat breakfast or not? We've heard that it was the most important meal of the day, or should you fast? What are your thoughts?
Well, this is a really interesting topic of conversation because fasting, intermittent fasting, is not for everyone. It's like most things in medicine and most things in biohacking. It's not a one size fits all. In fact, some of the worst endocrine disasters I have ever seen, and we've had hundreds of thousands of patients come through our functional medicine clinic. The worst endocrine disasters I have ever seen are in young menstruating women that eat in too narrow of a feeding window. And so, most of the time, husband and wife start the same sort of protocol together. They both start CrossFit together. They both start a intermittent fasting together. Husband's wildly successful. He feels amazing, sleeping like a bear, got the energy of 10 men, losing weight, feels great in the gym. And the wife is a disaster. Her hormones are off balance. She's starting to retain water. She's actually gaining weight. She's fasting in the morning. She's doing Orange Theory classes 5 days a week. She's been ripping through these for 3 months and hasn't lost a single pound. Why is that? The reason for that is that to be a candidate for intermittent fasting, narrow feeding windows, which I am a big fan of, to be a candidate for that, you should have relatively high blood sugar, meaning you should have relatively high insulin, relatively high hemoglobin A1C, the 3 month average of your blood sugar, because many people are already insulin sensitive and they already have a low hemoglobin A1C, 3 month average of their blood sugar. They already have low fasting glucose. And when you have those markers, God bless you, it means you're metabolically healthy. Shortening your feeding window can actually trick the pituitary, the master puppeteer in your brain that's running everything. It's running your metabolism, it's regulating your hormonal cycle, it's regulating your body temperature, it's regulating your hormone levels, all kinds of things. That master puppeteer starts to perceive low blood sugar over a prolonged period of time as starvation. So what does it do? It throttles back your metabolism. If you ever watch the follow-up episode on that show, The Biggest Loser, remember The Biggest Loser?
Yeah.
Where those people lost a bunch of weight on crash diets. Nearly every single one of those contestants not only gained all the weight back that they lost, they ballooned to catastrophic new weights. And why is that? Because you tried to outsmart your own protective mechanism, which is your pituitary, trying to save your life. So my answer to intermittent fasting is if you have blood sugar regulation issues, it can be the panacea for health. I mean, it can be an absolute life-changing, life-extending way to shift your meals. If you are one of those women or one of those rare men that actually has very low average blood sugar and you have really sensitive insulin, narrowing your feeding window can be dangerous because it can disrupt your hormones. It can actually lead to fatigue, weight gain, water retention, brain fog, and poor focus and concentration. So again, like intermittent fasting, amazing, not for everybody. Cold plunging, incredible, not for everybody.
Yeah.
Gary, this is such incredibly important quality of life information. Thank you for doing this. And I'm sure you and Shemane have covered it. But where can people go? Because this critical information you're sharing with us here on Faith and Freedom, no coincidence, it's called Faith and Freedom. This is so critical, but no doctor has ever said this to a patient.
Nope.
No EPA, no FDA, no USDA person has ever uttered those words because their agenda is counterproductive. Where can people go? Do you have a website? I mean, people, obviously you're treating people, but how can they find this kind of information without just an occasional podcast like this?
Yeah, so I have a website, theultimatehuman.com. So you can find all of my information there.
I thought that was my website.
I'm actually hosting a 3-day water fasting challenge. It starts tomorrow. So I'm taking 75 to 100,000 people through a 3-day water fast. So if you've actually never done a water fast, it's completely free. You can sign up for it. And I'll be with you every step of the way. I'm doing 2 hours of live online every day for 3 days, easing people into the fast with bone broth, easing them out of the fast with bone broth, helping them make sure that they're taking the right mineral salts and hydrating through this fast. Because you know what is fascinating? When we harness the power of fasting, more of what God gave us, less of what man makes us. This is the direction that the aging science is going. It is harnessing what God gave us and getting further from what man makes us. Well, you can go there, or you can also go to my Instagram channel, which is just my first and last name, at Gary Brecka.
I did a 3-day fast recently. I felt amazing.
Good. You feel
And
better.
I thought I would have to back off on my workouts. I couldn't wait to get to the gym. Like I had
Yeah.
more energy.
Yeah, I'll leave you this one fact. I just got back last night, as a matter of fact, from 14 cities in 18 days, and I'm sure Ted knows. When you're on the road, it's tough, and he's probably had a travel schedule like that at some point in your career. With 14 cities in 18 days, you're waking up in a different time zone. I was on polar opposite sides of the world. I was in Dubai, I was in Abu Dhabi, I was in London, New York, California, even Australia. We did two shows in Singapore, and in Sydney and Melbourne. I used fasting as a superpower. So what I did was, and I never hear anybody talk about this. So if you are a traveler and you actually want to adjust to a new time zone, or you actually want to not be fatigued in your new time zone, this is the biggest tip that I can give you. Do not eat during your normal sleeping window. So in other words, if I go to bed at 10 p.m. East Coast time, I get up at 6 a.m. East Coast time. Between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. East Coast time, I did not put one piece of solid food in my mouth, regardless of where I was in the world. My digestion stayed on the same cycle. My sleep changed. If you're not changing sleep and digestion and light cycle and exercise and food, your body has less to deal with. And I felt more energized coming back from my 18th day roadshow in 14 cities than I did the day I left.
Very important
Wow.
information. Good stuff, man. Thank you, Gary.
Amazing. And we're going to have you stick around for a couple more segments because there's so much more we want to talk about. We want to get into frequency. And I've got something special for you, a special treat coming up. We're going to do a speed round. But Gary, can you stick around for 2 more seconds or 2 more segments?
Sure.
All right. Sounds good. We're going to talk about energy, sleep, and frequency coming up. Don't go away.
Relish the opportunity to be an outsider because it's the outsiders who change the world.
Perhaps you were born for such a time as this. We all have 2 actual ages, our body's internal biological age and what we feel like. What I didn't know is that I've likely lowered my biological age without even knowing. And here's the most important thing. Gary and I and Ted, we were talking about this. Americans eat too much processed food and not enough fruits and veggies. And that means that a lot of us are sometimes 10 or 20 years older than our actual age. We're like a ticking time bomb. There's a major university study that says there's a way to diffuse that bomb. People who drank Field of Greens slowed their aging without having a radical diet change and no extra exercise, just this one change. A scoop of Field of Greens in your water, and you'll look and feel better. Start there, Field of Greens. It actually works. Check out the study and get 20% off with code FREEDOM at fieldofgreens.com. Okay, joining us once again is my husband, Ted Nugent, and Gary Brecka. Gary, welcome back.
Hey, great to be back again.
So,
Gary, I got to interrupt. I get up every day. You're talking about 14 cities in 18 days. That's no big deal, buddy. My best was 27 gigs, 27 cities in a row. And then I about died. But I was young and dangerous back then. I was like Bruce Lee. But I've always been fit and energized. Number one, because I've been clean and sober. I was taught that this is my sacred temple and that you don't poison your sacred temple, which includes everything from the FDA and the USDA and the CDC and all these bureaucracies that could care less about individual strength and power and health. And I've always preached this kind of stuff, but I cannot tell you how important your message and your information and your education is, because they might dismiss me because I'm a loudmouth guitar player. But when you support it with all the statistics, I only have my own personal, experience to share, but you've got all the science. You've got the science and the biology, and it's almost like a martial arts thing that you provide. So thank you for doing that. And I bet you've saved a lot of lives, not just from life and death, but from basically a death of life where they're slow, they're slovenly, they're uninspired. That's really the tragedy of a bad lifestyle, bad diet, and not knowing about the pituitary gland and not knowing about what's going on inside the human body. When did you start doing this? And when did you find out that it was your calling? Did you actually see saving people's lives and went, wow, I can do this for a lot of people?
Well, I was a mortality researcher for the insurance industry for a long period of time. So, what I did was I was a part of building a model that could predict mortality to the month. So, if we got 10 years of medical records on you and 10 years of demographic data, we could tell the insurance company how long you had to live to the month. And I get a lot of flack for that, but the truth is, it's some of the most accurate science in the world. If you want to know how accurate life insurance companies are at predicting death, just look at what happened during the 2008 2009 financial services crisis. We had 364 banks fail. Not a single life insurance company failed. And no other financial institution takes that level of risk on a single variable. So they're willing to bet 25 million, 40 million, $50 million of risk on how many more months you have left on earth. So if I was to boil that entire career down to just a few sentences, it would essentially be this. The reason why the vast majority of humanity is not living longer, healthier, happier, more fulfilling lives are for what we call modifiable risk factors. Dietary and lifestyle changes that they could have implemented relatively easily that would have dramatically extended their life. And so I realized this about 10 years ago, going on 11 years now. And I abruptly resigned from that career because I said, why am I going to spend the rest of my life predicting death, reading medical records and predicting death to drive income for an insurance company? Why wouldn't I spend the balance of my lifetime teaching people to live healthier, happier, longer, more fulfilling lives? And so I resigned from that career. I came in the house one day and told my, at the time, girlfriend, who then became my fiance, is now my wife, that I wanted to start a functional medicine clinic. And I'm not a physician. I'm not licensed to practice medicine. So I had to find a physician. And by the grace of God, it became one of the largest functional medicine clinics in the country. We just recently exited that. And now I'm focused on the message.
No, you developed that decision and that life choice based on evidence. But Shemane, before she started researching it, her instincts, my instincts, I dare to think, and I saw the people around me getting softer, slower, dumber, drunker, higher, and they just weren't happy. They were alive, but not really. So there's a difference between being alive and being the best that you can be and falling for the scam of the government bureaucracies and the food industry. So, Shemane, you've saved people's life. You should see the emotional responses we get because what Shemane and I have educated people to. I bet you get a lot of that emotional response too, and I bet it really strengthens your resolve to continue this challenge.
I do, and it is the most fulfilling thing in the world. I mean, it's literally
Yeah.
chicken soup for the soul.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time giving without the expectation of receipt. In fact, I just had a whole team meeting right before this podcast, and my entire team was around a giant boardroom, and I said, never, ever, ever will we forget that our primary purpose is to give without the expectation of receipt. Never put this information behind a paywall. Never link this information to an affiliate link. Never link this information to some kind of additional action that they need to take. When people have questions, we give as thorough and complete and intentional and as authentic an answer as possible. And it's been, the grace of God, like I said, that built that into the largest media platform in the world for wellness and longevity. And I think, when you look at the corporate powers to be, if you will, the public policy, those that set our public policy, they're corrupted by big food and big pharma. When 74% of your nutritional research is funded by big food and big pharma, that's how you get a food pyramid that says that Lucky Charms is more nutritious than grass-fed steak. That's how you spend $5 trillion a year on healthcare, and you have the sickest, fattest, most disease-ridden nation in the world to show for it. I mean, for $5 trillion, we should be the most lethal set of human beings on the planet. We should damn near be flying off our balconies. And the truth is, we lead the world in 6 things: morbid obesity, type 2 diabetes, multiple chronic disease in a single biome, infant mortality, maternal mortality. And, those statistics are sad. It's part of the reason why I've committed this portion of my adult lifetime to, Bobby Kennedy's agenda. I chair his MAHA action. I'm a big proponent of what Make America Healthy Again is doing, trying to just get the corruption out of our public policy and then just instill the basics back in humanity, getting sugary sodas out of the SNAP program, encouraging kids to move more, the President's Fitness Council, actually getting whole foods back into our public school system because, we feed prepubescent children these highly toxic, addictive ingredients. And then we wonder why they have behavioral disorders and why we've got to bring in big pharma to actually normalize behavior. You take physical education out of the public school system, you wonder why a 10-year-old boy can't sit in a chair for 7 hours and take in information. And again, that's why, a large part of my message is about getting back to the basics.
And Ted brought it up. It wasn't just my instinct, it was that I was slowly dying from toxic mold poisoning. And we can take all the supplements in
That's
the
a poor
world.
confidence.
We can eat clean, we can work out every day, but there are invisible killers that a lot of people don't talk about. Frequencies like 5G, Wi-Fi, whatever's in the sky, EMFs, they're constantly pulsing through our body and add toxic mold to the mix. And it's no wonder that many people feel sick and exhausted. And I tried a lot of the things. I think I messaged you that you're doing now, the Hockett, the HOCATT,
Yeah, the
quantum
HOCAT,
pulse.
Hockett.
Yeah. Vitamin IVs. I've been doing vitamin IVs and infrared saunas for 20 years. But also Firefly and quantum pulse that works. It's Tesla technology used for frequency healing. How do we biohack our way out of these invisible threats and feel better from a world that we can't unplug from?
So you really touched a hot button for me. So I'll take a little dive into this for a minute. So if you look at just the category of major disease in the United States, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, autoimmune disease, as broad categories, you will find that about 85% of the time, these diseases are categorized as idiopathic. Idiopathic in medicine means of unknown origin. So you go in to see the doctor, your blood pressure is high, they check your heart, everything's fine. They give it EKG and EEG, everything's fine. Heart and lung sounds are fine. And we medicate the heart anyway for a crime we can't prove it's committing. Why is that?
Right.
Why are 85% of these conditions idiopathic? Why do so many people have autoimmune diseases and many people have multiple autoimmune diseases? Why does 82% of all autoimmune disease affect women? The reason for that is very often what happens is we make the assumption when one of these things happen that the immune system or the body has just broken down for no reason at all. Your immune system went haywire, attacked your colon, you have Crohn's, it attacked your lacrimal gland of your eye, you have Sjogren's, it attacked your thyroid, you have Hashimoto's, attacked the nerves of your in your body, you have multiple sclerosis. But we never answer the question, what caused this to happen? And the fact of the matter is that the vast majority of the time, as you are well aware of, the immune system is called to these locations. And if your listeners will write down these 4 things, I think these are 4 of the most important things that you can track, right? If your blood work is normal, which at the time that you were suffering, I would bet that a lot of your blood markers were normal, yet you had mold toxicity, which a lot of doctors will tell you is nonsense. And it's absolutely not. And so mold toxicity, Jordan Peterson right now is laying in an ICU unit for his 3rd week in a row because severe mold toxicity, amongst other things. And so he has this kind of chronic inflammatory response syndrome. And so what happens is you get mold mycotoxin, heavy metal, parasite, virus. I'm going to say those again because this is so important. Mold mycotoxin, heavy metal, parasite, virus. Before we assume that God made a mistake, meaning the God-given immune system went haywire for no reason, we should assume that the immune system is acting properly. We just need to find out why it's there. And if you look at the big category of 4, you would find the vast majority of pathogenic invaders that lead to a lot of chronic conditions that go completely missed by modern medicine. I'll give you another example. Heavy metals have an affinity for the thyroid. They tend to gravitate into the thyroid. When heavy metals hide in the thyroid, the immune system is called to that location. If the immune system lights up against the thyroid, you're told you have Hashimoto's, you have a thyroid disease. And even worse, you're going to be told that you inherited that disease from your ancestor, right? If you have high blood pressure and they find nothing wrong with the heart, they go, oh, look, your mom's sister had it. Your aunt had it. That's why you have it. You have familial hypertension. You have genetically inherited hypertension. That is patently false. The next time your doctor tells you have a genetically inherited disease, you should ask them, what gene did I inherit from my ancestor that caused this condition to exist? And their face would go
Gary,
blank.
this is, I
So
wish we
good,
could,
man.
I wish we could go on and on and on. We have to take a quick break. Can you stick
Okay.
around for one more segment?
Absolutely.
Relish the opportunity to be an outsider because it's the outsiders who change the world.
Perhaps you were born for such a time as this. I'm going to let you take this away. We're going to talk about our Uncle Ted's pet products. Go ahead.
Well, it's getuncleteds.com. Our quality life pivots on our beloved dogs. I've been with my dogs. I've never been without a dog for 77 years, and they bring me supreme, definitive joy and happiness. We want them to be as healthy and happy as possible. So we reached out to some mad scientists who got us all natural supplements and vitamins and nutritional goodies for the dogs. It's called GetUncleTeds.com. This stuff has brought such vim and vigor, piss and vinegar into Jackson, Sadie, and Coco's lives that the more high energy, the more fun, the more howling that they do, the happier our life. GetUncleTeds.com. All natural food supplements and goodies for your beloved dogs. What's more important? I can't think of anything.
Powered by bioflavonoids. All right, we're coming back with Gary Brecka. Gary, we're going to make this one quick. We've got something fun for you. Okay, we're going to lighten it up a little bit. We've talked about energy, biohacking and frequency and all of that, toxic mold. All right, this is a rapid fire round. The first thing that comes to your mind. So we're going to have some easy questions in there for you. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, coffee or green juice?
Coffee.
Good. Go ahead and jump in whenever you want.
Do you have a favorite goodie you like to eat that really isn't good for you?
I'm a big fan of dark chocolate, so I'm like a dark chocolate
But
fan.
isn't that good for you? Yeah, we love that too. But it's good for you, isn't it? If it's natural.
Yeah, it's good for you. It's natural, but not in the abundance I like to eat it in.
I'm with you there. I'm a chocoholic. Okay, sushi, yes or no?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Really?
No,
Wow.
got to have it cooked.
All right, here's one for
Go
you.
ahead.
What's your favorite movie of all time?
Wow, that's a really good one. I would have to put Braveheart up there.
Yes!
Near the
Ditto!
top of the
They
list.
call me William Wallace with a guitar.
I just loved it. I mean, and Mel Gibson's been a client for a long time, and I think the world of him. Anybody that can show up to Mar-a-Lago in golf shorts, in board shorts, Crocs, and a T-shirt to a black tie event at Mar-a-Lago, that's my hero right there.
He did? That sounds like Ted.
Did
Except
not
for
get kicked out at the same event Ted and I were at, by the way.
yes. Oh, okay. So have you ever hunted? And if not, will you?
Yes, I hunted all my life growing up. We deer hunt in Southern Maryland, so I would hunt before I went to high school in the morning.
Awesome.
And isn't it true that wild game in this big world that we live in 2025, isn't it true that wild game is probably the safest and the best diet a person can indulge?
No question. No vaccination, no hormones, no grains, no artificial feed. I mean, it's absolutely some of the healthiest meat you can eat. Grass-fed, grass-finished cattle and animals and wild game.
And it's whatever happens with us, like we need to exercise. Same thing should be for the food that we ingest, for those animals to run and exercise and eat naturally.
No doubt.
Right?
You're not what you eat. You're what you eat.
Yeah, I had both of my knees replaced because I jumped off the amplifiers. I never heard the word meniscus till the doctor said I'm out of it. The point being is that even in my new knees, and I'm old and I'm a little bit slower, do you know that when those dogs see me come out with the shotgun and the orange vest, they go berserk and I can walk all day long because of the joy and the healing powers of nature and the adrenaline, the natural adrenaline. Isn't that the lifestyle that we're talking about? Activity where your energy and your efforts actually provide the right diet. So hunting, fishing, trapping, everybody, you can do it. There's more deer than ever, more turkey than ever, more bear, more cougar, more ducks than ever, more bison than in over 200 years. You should all hunt, fish, and trap and and keep those precious wildlife resources in the asset column by having value, and the exercise and the natural protein you get from hunting, it literally is the answer to all of our problems as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you know what? Hunting is not the stripping of resources; it's the preservation of resources. That's what most people don't
I
understand.
love when you say that.
You know, and I'll tell you just a short, quick story. I was flipping through photo albums with my family the other day, and my daughter all of a sudden freaks out at the table. She goes, "Oh my God, Dad!" I go, "What? She goes, "There's a gun in the back of that truck," and I look at it, and it was my pickup truck in the senior parking lot of my high school.
Yep.
In the back of in the senior parking lot when I went to high school, I graduated in 1988. There were open breeched firearms in the back window of the pickup trucks parked in my school parking lot. Now, there could have been a fist fight at the tailgate of that truck. Nobody would have ever gone for that gun. I'd never even heard of a school shooting at that time. I didn't even know what that was.
Nope.
And you had to have the gun breached and the shells under the seat. But I could hunt in the morning, unzip my snowsuit, and drive to school and park in my high school parking lot. Can you imagine if you pulled into a high school parking lot now and had a breech shotgun in the back of your car? I mean, I'm not advocating for that any longer, by the way. But the point being, I mean, how fast society has changed. And we were raised around weapons. We were taught to respect them at a very early age. My father was a Navy captain and taught me to hunt at a very early age and taught me to respect the firearm.
Okay. I knew we liked you even more, and your family is going to have to come to our ranch in Texas and come hang out.
Oh,
and
that's
hunt
my
and all that
jam.
fun stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay.
I'll show up. I might not leave.
Hey, we have guest rooms, so you're welcome.
Okay.
All right. One supplement you'll never skip.
Vitamin D3 with K2.
That's what I
If
take.
you can only pick
EDK.
one.
Okay.
Vitamin D3 with K2.
Okay. Favorite way to work out? Weights,
I like to
cardio.
do weighted walks. I like to actually put on a weighted vest called an ion vest and wear about 12 extra pounds and go for a brisk walk outside.
I do that every day, but it's a vest full of 12 gauge ammo.
It's still a weighted vest.
And the places I walk, Lewis and Clark would not have sent Sacagawea. We own a swamp here in Michigan that I guarantee nobody's ever surveyed. And me and the dogs go into areas that a rabbit wouldn't go. And I'm 77, and you should see me plowing through the pucker brush and under the cedars and under the hemlocks. That exercise, it literally has a life of its own. It doesn't feel like a workout, but I think it's the best workout because you're not thinking about the work. Isn't the best workout out of body is out of mind, where that's why my song Stranglehold should be the soundtrack to everybody working out, because it'll take you away from the physical exertion. I thought I'd mention
Guess who lived the longest in the blue zones? Goat herders.
Yep. Yes. Yep.
They walked around following their goat and sheep all day.
Okay. One favorite quote or motto that you live by?
Aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. And if you want to shrink your problems, grow your purpose.
I'll have to remember that.
I like that.
That's a good one. Mine is when in doubt, whip it out.
That sounds like something you could get arrested for.
It's actually the lyric to my song Free for All, but that's a whole different era. But it still applies.
Okay.
Gary, thank you so much for joining Ted and I. I hope we can do this again soon. I know you're busy, but we really appreciate it. Valuable information. We're going to come visit you in Miami. You come visit us in Texas.
Yeah, thank you so
100%.
much, Gary.
This was amazing, guys. Can't wait to see you both again.
Okay, take care. God bless.
Godspeed. Be healthy and happy.
Okay, I always end my show, and you can stick around for this, with something to make you smile. Although that just did. So we're going to take a look at our funny pet videos. Roll them.
Woohoo! Blackbird singing in the dead of night, take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life.
Honestly, we should do that with Sadie, so she'll get a little bit more exercise.
We got to film you singing goodnight to Jackson every night. Shemane
I
sings
see.
Jackson. I call him Happy because he's a reincarnation of our beloved Happy Dog.
Mhm.
But when Shemane sings to Jackson, he literally passes out. He gets so relaxed.
His eyes roll back and his eyelids get heavy.
It happens to me too when she sings to me.
Well, Ted, thank you so much for joining me. Gary is amazing. You're amazing. Watch Ted's show right here on Real America's Voice. Saturday, Friday?
I think
Sorry.
Saturday, but it's called the Spirit Campfire. And Shemane's is Faith and Freedom, but it is also a Spirit Campfire. But tell everybody you know there is a Real America's Voice where truth, logic, common sense, goodwill, decency, positive spirit, positive energy, positive attitude rules the day. Shemane, I love you so much. But now that you're helping people attain quality of life, I love you even more.
Oh, thank you, honey. Love you too. And you have taught me all of this. We only got about 10 seconds left, but I've watched you go through all of this with people trying to prevent you from speaking your mind about hunting and about guns. But in 5 seconds, Ted, thank you so much for being here. Take it away.
All right. Go to tednugent.com and see what we're up to because we're doing God's work. I love you people. Happy October.
Relish the opportunity to be an outsider because it's the outsiders who change the world.
Perhaps you were born for such a time as this.